Okay, so let's start, guys. And once more, thank you for joining the webinar. I am pretty sure that you'll find something interesting, a lot of interesting and cool approaches in Salesforce configuration during the next 30-40 minutes. My name is Vladimir. I'm head of product at the Welkin Suite, and at the same time, I'm a head of Salesforce department in our parent company, so I'm pretty close to the Salesforce development and configuration itself. And in this webinar, in the next, I believe, 30-40 minutes, I will try to show you out, first of all, what is the Welkin Suite, how come IDE is now suited for admins as well. I will, for sure, it will be the main part of the webinar. I will do a comprehensive demonstration of what cool features the IDE provides for Salesforce configuration. And of course, we'll have a questions and answers session in the end. So please feel free to ask your questions as we go. You can post them in the questions pane in the GoToWebinar, and I will try to answer all of them at the end of the webinar. At the same time, if I will spot something interesting during the webinar itself, I will try to cover the questions as we go. But it depends because I am on my own and not always will be able to do this. So first of all, what is the Welkin Suite? For those who haven't heard about the Welkin Suite or haven't tried it itself, I will do a very short introduction to the IDE. So the Welkin Suite, it's an IDE. We have started developing this tool for like 4.5 years ago. And initially it was our initial internal tool for our Salesforce development team. First of all, it was purely development tool focused on Apex, Visualforce, later on Lightning. But over the time, we realized that it's not only about writing the code. Salesforce development is sometimes about writing the code, but it is always about configuring data model. It's always about configuring layouts. It's always about configuring permissions. And this is why we started to move on towards declarative development, configuration, and administrating. And right now, at the moment, the Welkin Suite, it's a great IDE where both administrators, developers, configurators, no matter how you call all of these people, can work in the same tool, in the same interface, can speak on the same language, use the same terms, and share their experience working with the application. At the same time, we understand that providing the same approaches or using the same approaches as for developers and provide them to administrators might not always work. We have different things that we need as developers and administrators. We got used to different UIs, interfaces, and tools, again, while working on different tasks. In development, we've got used to different editors, we've got used to IDs maybe in our previous experience, while when working with Salesforce configuration, we've got used to Salesforce, Chrome extensions, maybe some third-party services, but mostly it's Salesforce UI. And in from our point of view, from our experience, we see a lot of issues or maybe room for improvements in the Salesforce UI. It was so long together with us that we are stopped noticing these issues, we stopped noticing this room for improvement, and from now on we need to rethink this approach and focus more on providing better and better tools for Salesforce configuration. And there are a couple of areas on which we are trying to focus in providing the configuration tools in the Welkin Suite IDE. So first of all, our goal is to bring everything together. Instead of going into different pages, making 50 clicks to do just one simple change, our goal is to provide you that one single button that you need to press at the moment when you need it and in the place where you need it. So you won't spend your time trying to find out where is the page where you need to click that button. At the same time, we understand that in terms of Salesforce configurations, there are at least two main stages. First of all, it's initial configuration, and then it's maintenance. In the initial configuration, there is a lot of bulkified operations. You're creating new objects, you're creating tens or even hundreds of new fields. You're creating lots of new things all the time, and you need a nice UI and handy UI to work with all these bulk operations, not one by one how it's done in Salesforce. In maintenance stage, it's okay to work in Salesforce, but at the same time, why not doing it better even on the maintenance stage? Third thing in our mind is that there are still sometimes dependencies on the development team. If you don't know Apex, if you are not aware about SOQL, if you need some help in that direction from your teammates, we are trying to, at least in some places where this is possible, to reduce this dependency on the development team. Our goal is to provide you tools that will allow administrators, configurators to do some of the tasks which were previously tied up with developers, do them on their own. So let's stop talking and I will switch to the ID and I will start showing you what cool things we have for configuration, and I hope as we go I will see some of your questions. So I switched to the Welkin Suite. I have already created a project for one of my organizations, and initially I have a window when the first time I will open the IDE that asks me what layout I would like to see. If it's declarative development layout or if it's coded development layout. In terms of functionality of the IDE, nothing changes if you choose any of them. From another point of view, when you're doing declarative development, you don't need to see some of the static analysis tools for code base. You don't need to see some of the panels for Salesforce DX and some other stuff. That's why we are trying to make it as lightweight as possible. And I will select declarative development. As we already have a project here, and yeah, in terms of the ID project, it's a local copy of your organization with some metadata items that you have selected, starting from S-objects, layouts, workflows, and up to territory management settings, sharing rules, approval processes, and anything else. In the admin mode, we have just a couple of panels that are providing us different information. Right now, the main panel for me is the admin panel, and it's our dashboard for declarative development functionality. Literally everything that we are adding to the ID for configuration, for administering, will somehow end up in the admin panel. In one or another way, it's just your toolkit to start using different features of the ID. At the same time, like regular normal approach here is to have Solution Explorer. That is a regular folder-based structure of your project where you can organize your metadata items like again, objects, layouts, Apex classes if you have them for some reasons, and everything else in just regular project structure. But I'll get back to the admin panel. We also have a couple more helpful panels which are shown by default, like debug logs. So if you're interested in seeing debug logs which are generated by the organization, you can see them right here. We also have a scheduled jobs panel which shows me the full list of scheduled jobs on my organization. It allows me to delete any of them. It allows me to create new scheduled jobs. Just in case if you need, it's here. And the third panel here is tracking changes. I think, yeah, it will be a pretty strange beginning, but I will start from this panel. So in our world, it's normal case when we are starting to work on some complex task and we need to do a lot of different changes to complete the task. In some cases, it takes a couple hours. In some cases, it takes days. And for you to not try to remember all of the settings that you have done during the days, try not to remember the change sets that you need to build to deploy your changes to production environments. We have built a special panel which will do this instead of you. So I have a project here. I select my project. I click on the button to start tracking changes. I will name the tracking point somehow, let's say webinar tasks. And that's it. From now on, whatever I will do within the ID, it will recognize, remember, and when I will need to deploy this to my staging environment, to my UAT environment, to my production environment, I won't need to try to recover in memory what I've done. It will remember everything and I will be able to deploy these changes in just a couple of clicks. So let's start with the admin panel. I will make it a bit bigger. Admin panel. On the left side of this panel, you can see the full list of your S-objects on the organization. You can see that some of them are green, custom ones, and blue, standard S-objects. Here we have some different information. Once you click on any S-object, you see some of its properties like activatable, creatable, queryable, its prefix, labels, URLs. Not the most needed information for everyday usage, but why not? Let's go deeper and find something more interesting here. Once I expand any object, I can see fields, layouts, workflow rules, and validation rules for each right here. If I expand the fields tab item, in the same way, I can see standard and custom fields in my object. I can see their API name, I can see their type, and once I select any of them, I can see some of its properties again. In case if we are mostly working, let's say, with customers, I believe all of us would use it that customers are always talking using labels. So they don't operate with API names, they name field how they see it in the layout. So to make your life a bit easier, we have a switcher where you can switch the view from name view to the label view. So it will be a bit easier for you to find out any field if customer names it somehow. As well, of course, you can search admin panel for anything that you want, I don't know, let's say name. And now I can see all of the objects where I had the name field, or I don't know, amount. I have here a couple of workflows, validation rules, I have fields, validation rules. So in this way I can very easily find out something that I need. But let's get back to my account and see what we have else in the fields tab. By the way, we have the first question, can the declarative development done here be passed to version control? Yes, everything is done locally except for the field level security, but I will highlight this. And it can be pushed to Git repository or like anywhere else as usually. So changes are first done locally and deployed to Salesforce in a very transparent way. Okay, let's get back here. So for the fields, it's not the most interesting item field itself, but let's take a look what we have here. We have one of the new features that we are pretty proud of and we love it. Once you right click on any field, you have a couple options like open field level security. We'll get back to it later. But my favorite one for now is open field usage report window. I believe it's a very common case for all of us when we need to understand why or where and how some field is used. Either we need to rename it, remove it, change its style. We've got some records that it's not used, or we have hit limits for number of fields in the object, or we just want to keep our objects clean and remove unneeded fields. So based on the various different reasons, we sometimes need to understand where each field is used and in what way. And digging across this topic in Salesforce was like a pretty sad picture, because the most common case how we can understand where the field is used is trying to delete it. In this case, Salesforce returns us some error saying, sorry bro, this field is used somewhere. In our case, and yes, the worst thing there is that it doesn't provide information about all of the places where the field can be used. You need to dig out and understand where exactly it doesn't look for, where exactly this field is used else. In our case, in the field usage report, once you open it, on the left side you see the report itself, but on the right side, as we, like during the process of implementation of this feature, we found out that the field can be used in about 60 different places across the organization. It's too much things to cover at once in a good way. This is why to inform you right out of the box where we are looking for, on the right side of the screen you can see the full list of places where the Welkin Suite looks for your field. So it looks in all Apex classes, in all triggers, it looks in approval processes, in page fields, in entry criteria, in email templates, in all actions, and in the field update, and in the email alert for HTML version. Yeah, I really don't know why, but we haven't yet done search in the plain text version. So all of these exclamation marks here are for the same, for the plain text version of a template. So everywhere in approval processes we are looking. We are also looking in email templates, again with the same limitation. We are also looking in the layouts, in both fields and layouts, in related list columns, in related, but we are not looking in the related list sort fields. Let's move on. In the subjects, we are looking again in a lot of different ways. So we are looking in compact layouts, in default values, independent pick lists, field sets, filters, formula fields, list views, roll-up summary fields. We are also looking in the validation rules and in the workflow rules everywhere where it is possible there. So once we'll keep adding new places to this like field usage report, we'll keep updating this summary, so you will always be aware where we are looking for and what to expect from the IDE. So let's get back to the report on the left side. On the left side, we can see that we have found 27 usages of the account.name. We see that it's used in a couple of different objects, like in the account itself, in the D&B company, in the opportunity, and in a couple of Apex classes and email templates. A lot of places. But even just at a quick glance, we see that it looks like it doesn't impact too much logic. So it's only used in Apex classes, but everywhere else it's used only for displaying something. I will show you another field as a great example, but one important thing to mention here. So as you can see, we are grouping places where we have found this field based on the object and its child items. At the same time, if you would like to understand, let's say, the impact of the field on the logic, if it's just like a visualization of some data or it does impact any business logic in the organization, you can very easily switch from the object view to the type view and immediately see that it's used in layouts, list views, workflow rules. Oh, cool. As well as the email templates and Apex classes. Of course, for layouts, for list views, for workflow rules, we have subgrouping based on the object. But in this way, it's like, even on the first level, it's a very quick information on where this field is used. So let me switch to the opportunity, so I will be able to show you much nicer example. I believe one of the most used fields is amount. So I will get a usage report for it. And let's see. Okay, so we see that this field is used in the account on some of the layouts. By the way, very important thing is that once you select any item, you'll be able to see some details about it, not about related lists. Yep. It's used in a lookup. You see all the properties of the lookup filter. You see the rollup summary field, and once you hit this button, you can see where exactly in the rollup summary field it's used and what is the details of that rollup summary. It's used in the campaign, contact, and in the opportunity itself, where it's used in one of the approval processes as entry criteria in formula field. It's used in final rejection action as field update. We also have it in a compact layout with details for it. We also have it in the field set. We have it in a formula field, in different layouts. And what's cool here is that once you select any layout, you see some quick glance of what is that layout. So our amount is highlighted in bold, and we see all other fields that are shown on that layout. What are their statuses? Editable, required, or read-only, or section. At the same time, we even see the list of hidden fields for that layout. It's shown in a couple of list views, in validation rules, in workflow rules. So in lots of places we are using this field, and this means that if I'd like to somehow, yeah, it's standard field, but if it would be my custom field, I won't delete it. I just won't try. By the way, you can very easily double click on any item in this report to get navigated to that place in the editor. So in the email template, it's used here. If I want to understand where it's used in the validation rule, okay, here's my validation rule. If I want to find it in Apex code, okay, I can open my Apex code. So in this way, I can very easily understand where exactly my field is used and what will be the impact of any changes to that field. It's really one of my favorite things. We still have lots of plans for improving it, to add new locations, to add some exporting tools, to add some reporting tools. And yeah, I see a question about reports or report filters of like report types. Yes, they are not yet included. It's like pretty strange data format from Salesforce in XML, so we are trying to do it in a good way. That's why it's delayed. But of course, we understand that in reports, you should search for it. So over the time, we'll add more and more locations to the field usage report. Okay, let's move on, and I'll get back to my favorite account. And as we finished with fields, let's switch to layouts. Again, for layouts, it's the same as you've seen in the field usage report. You see the full list of layouts available for each object. You see, again, attributes of each field. You see section. You can apply filtering by field, by section. Again, you see the list of hidden fields. And in the admin panel, everything is read-only. Almost everything is read-only. But I will show you in about a couple minutes how to edit all of this stuff. For now, let's move on to workflow rules. In workflow rules, we are showing you workflow rules, pretty obvious. We are showing you some of the details about them. We are highlighting active workflow rules in bold and deactivated in regular font. And it's just like a helpful information for you to see it. For validation rules, we are providing a bit more cool things. So again, the same approach, details for the validation rule, active, or okay, both of them are active. At the same time, I can add a new validation rule right from here, specifying everything that I need. Or even more, I can modify any existing validation rule. And here is one of my favorite things. I'm a guy with a development background, but still I don't like the way how I create validation rules in Salesforce UI. I don't remember all of the API names for the different fields. I might even don't know about them. At the same time, I don't want to do so much clicks in the Salesforce UI just to insert needed fields into my validation rule. So in the Welkin Suite, we've played a bit and we've provided you the code completion for your validation rules. The code completion is aware about all of the Salesforce standard functions that you are able to use in validation rules, and as well it knows much more about fields than you. So for example, active, my fields code active. At the same time, the validation rules code completion is aware about the org-wide properties like object type, organization, user, system. Let's go to user and find some fields in the user that I might use for the demo here. For user, it takes a couple of seconds because we are retrieving this data from Salesforce in live. So active, no. Is active? Yes. And maybe even not. So here it is. Here's my validation rule. I don't know any field names. I don't know anything about this object in general, but I'm able just like with the code completion to find out the fields that I need, find out the functions that I need, and pretty fast build a query, validation rule. Done, saved. Cool. It's saved locally, so later I will be able to deploy it. So now ended like this, the read-only part of the admin panel. Let's switch to some of the configuration itself. The easiest way, even like I don't care about all of these menu items, I will do it in a fast way. I will just open my account object in the editor. Once you open any object in the editor, in the lower part of the screen, you will see the plain XML for editing your objects. If you are aware about it, if you're good in XML editing, of course, just do it. It might be the fastest way. But in my case, I don't know too much about XML. I don't like reading this 700 lines in XML and modifying them on my own. So I will just hide the XML part and I will switch to the graphical UI. So in the UI, in the Fields tab, we have the list of fields that we are able to modify in Salesforce. I see the full list of my fields with their labels, types, and very cool small feature, but required column. Usually, when we are asked about if the field is required or no, we are looking into the object itself, answering yes or no, and then we remember that, oops, the field can be required on the layout. In our case, in the required column, you might see two icons. First icon is showing us that this field is required on the object itself. So once I click on it, I have its properties, and I see that it's really required on this object. At the same time, there is a second icon that shows us that this field is required on one or more layouts. And when I hover over that icon, it shows me the full list of layouts where this field is required. In this way, it's really easy for me to understand what fields are required. I don't care about where they are required, on the object or on the layout. I just see that they might be required somewhere for end users. And I can see this without any additional clicks. So as I started opening fields, let's see what we have here. So in case if I want to modify any field, I can do this directly from here. I can select any field. It's my pick list field. I can see its pick list values. I can modify these values as well. I can modify the settings to sort values alphabetically. Don't use the first value as the default. Restrict, restrict. Save. I can change the description. I don't want. I can go to some other field, change its settings. So line to be 200, let's say. Make it case sensitive. Set the default value 123. At the same time, even if I have a pick list that is using global value set, the ID notifies us about this in the edit menu, but I still can modify this global value sets right from here. I don't need to go to the Salesforce. I don't need to go to plain XML. I can very easily modify the value set right here. So let's try it this way. In absolutely the same way, I can create new fields. So I can just select a new field, it will appear in the list, and I just need to specify all the details that I need. Once I'm done with all the changes, I will just hit save and deploy, and the ID will deploy the changes to Salesforce. So as you can see, it's also deploying the account object and the global value set like file. Once this is done, changes will be applied to Salesforce. Yeah, case sensitive can only be set for fields with unique also set. Okay, sorry. Let it be unique. Once more. Yep, one more great question. I forgot to mention this, so I will do this right now once the deployment finishes. So if I have any formula field, I can use code completions that you've seen in the validation rules in the formula editor for formula fields. So again, I don't need to remember functions. I don't need to remember other fields in this object. I can use the same code completion here. And the same even for default value. It's the same editor with the same syntax highlighting and code completion. Unfortunately, deployment might take some time, but it's okay, and it have deployed. Great. What other cool things do we have in the fields editor in the Welkin Suite? So again, the same approach here. We have field usage report, so I can open it right from here as well and see where my field is being used before doing some crazy changes to it. We also have here an option to configure field dependencies. So if you have multiple pick lists and you have dependency between them, okay, you can do this right from here. So controlling field will be my, let's say, industry. Dependent field will be something of my custom pick list. I proceed next, and I have such window with all the options where I can specify my field dependencies. So in a lot of quick ways. Let's do it this way. And in the lower part of the screen, I can see the immediate preview for what I will get. So for example, for agriculture, we have only two options. So let me select agriculture, and yep, we have only awesome and really awesome. Once I'm done, I can hit next, and the changes will be applied to Salesforce. Great, done, immediately. And the last thing in the fields editor, it's very, again, cool options that is very good, especially on the initial stages of any project implementation. My favorite example here and like our inspiration to develop this feature was one of the new projects we've had, where we had a regular sales process. We've had lead, and then lead should be converted to contact and opportunity, and account, of course. And from that lead, we've had to copy about 20 different fields to both opportunity and contact. How you do this in Salesforce? You go create all these fields, you get back to the lead conversion mapping, select mappings, realize that you forgot 5 fields. Okay, go back, create the fields manually, return back to the configuration, like to the mappings. This takes some time and it's annoying. In our case, I am in the account object. I hit the button to clone fields. Now I just select what fields I would like to clone. Let's say active, customer priority, to my demo fields. No, I don't want them. It will be SLA pick list. And at the same time, I can select even how many times each of these fields will be cloned. So in some cases, for example, if you have set of fields for billing address, your custom billing address, and you want to have an option to enter 5 different billing addresses, you just select all of these fields, copy them for 5 times, and now you need to select what is the target object for cloning. I can clone it to the same account, so just create multiple copies of these fields. I can copy it to any other object or a set of objects. I won't mess with my account, so I will just copy it to different objects. I hit clone, and the ID opens me editors for all of these objects. It creates all of the needed fields in the object, and now I just need to fine-tune them if I want or if I need. Otherwise, I will need to do some fine-tuning, but it's much faster than creating these fields one by one. Once we've done any changes, once we've created, for example, any new fields in Salesforce, it's normal case to set up the field level security that we are doing usually in Salesforce. So it's my favorite part in our S-Objects Inspector, how we call it, and let me show you it. So I switch to the FLS tab. It takes about 10 to 30 seconds to download data from Salesforce organization, but once it will be done, you'll love it. I will hide everything, really everything. So once the data is loaded, on the left side of the screen, you can see full list of your fields for your subject. On the top of the screen, you can see a full list of your profiles in your organization. And as you might guess, on the intersections, you see settings, FLS settings for each pair. This means like forbidden, visible, and read-only. You can modify these settings just by clicking through them for each of the pairs of field profile. You can use our quick actions, for example, if you need to modify and make some field read-only for everybody. Okay, it will be read-only for everybody. Otherwise, you can just make some field visible and editable by everybody. You can also apply the same approach on the profiles itself. So my analytics users are not my favorite users, so I will forbid them access to any field on the account. You can also notice here that we have two levels of highlighting. So with yellow, we are highlighting the fields which we have modified, like FLS settings which we have modified. At the same time, you can see the red highlighting for each field that is not accessible by any profile. From our point of view, this is some potential issue, or maybe it's something that requires your attention. This is why we are highlighting them. We even have a special filter called unassigned only. Once you click this button, you will see only fields that are not accessible by any profiles. What we think that you should maybe delete these fields, or you should provide access to some other profiles if you need, or you're smarter than us and it's as designed. So we're absolutely okay with this. But my favorite thing in setting your FLS settings, it's an option to clone settings from one field to another or from one profile to another. For example, I will get this dummy number. I will modify some settings for it. Now I can right click on this field, select bulk apply, and in just a couple of checkboxes, I can apply the same settings to multiple fields. In absolutely the same way, I can apply settings from one profile to multiple other profiles. So I will hit bulk apply, I will choose my analytics accounts, and now they have the same FLS settings as company community. Another approach here for like a bit advanced situations, let me forbid first 6 fields for everybody. And let's say I need to allow access for them to some of my, let's say, partner profiles. So instead of looking through all of these profiles, I will just filter out. So I will hide everything. I will look for partners, select only 5 my partner profiles. Make these fields, let's say, read-only for partners. And now when I will get back to filter profiles, I will again enable all of the profiles. And you can see that the ID takes into account the visibility. So it has changed settings with quick actions only for those 5 profiles which were available on the screen at the moment when I hit quick actions. In the same way, you can apply filters for field names. So you can do a quick filter here, or you can use some a bit more advanced filter in the column itself. So you can have some logical operations. You can have it like case sensitive and sensitive, or you can just with checkboxes select multiple fields that you'd like to see. Once you are done with the settings, you have different options. First option is just to apply them to Salesforce. Cool. Once I'll hit them, these options will be sent to Salesforce. Another option is that I can export these settings. Once I hit this button, the ID will save these settings in a JSON file. It's our internal JSON file. It doesn't matter too much for anybody else, except of a couple of cases. For example, if I will return to Solution Explorer, I have here one project, and at the same time, I have here another project. Let's say it's my production environment. In this project, I can open account, the same object. I can switch to the FLS tab here. Again, I need to wait a couple of seconds before this data will be loaded. And as you might guess, what I want to show you is how you can export and import settings from one environment to another environment. So my settings have loaded. Now what I will do here, I will import the JSON file that I have just created. So here's my JSON file. And here we are. Here are my settings. So they are not yet applied, but they are shown here for the account object in my production environment. If I'm not sure about some settings, if I want to be careful, for example, I don't want to mess up with analytics profiles, I can revert changes here. I also don't want to mess up, let's say, with account numbers, so I also will revert all changes. And now I can hit apply and apply these changes to my production environment. The cool thing is that this import-export feature, it won't break if you have different set of fields, if you have not matching fields, if you have not exactly matching profiles, so it won't break. If it finds some profiles that are not available on the source organization, it won't do nothing. If some profiles from source organization are not available on the target environment, okay, it's not a problem. The same for fields. Another option here is to wrapper to a CSV file. So we found out that a couple of our users are using that JSON file and then doing some magic on transforming it into CSV to send it to a team, to send it to end users. So this is why we have added a simple way to export these settings to a CSV format. So you have your FLS, you hit export to wrapper to CSV, you open a CSV file. Now when I go to my folder, I can open this CSV file in Excel or in any other editor that I prefer, and adjust a couple actions, and I will have a human readable, even this way. I have a human readable snapshot of my FLS settings for my account object and for all of my profiles. So now I can do some Excel magic here, or I can save it for the future for some references and share it with the team. That's about my favorite part, FLS, but we also have almost the same approach for layouts. So once you've created a field or modified a field, you've modified security settings, and now you need to put it into some layouts. The same approach, fields on left, layouts on top, and here you have all the settings. Again, we are highlighting you fields that are not shown anywhere. We are showing you if the field is hidden, editable, required, or read-only on each of the layouts. We are showing you if it's available, on what section it is shown in the layout. And we are also providing you the same options for quick actions to set all the fields into some section, and bulk apply option. Once you've done these changes, just hit save and deploy, and all of these changes will be sent to Salesforce again. In absolutely the same approach, we have just like a plain administering feature, permission set assignment. So if I go to Tools, select Permission Sets Assignment, I believe already familiar window opens. I have users on the left, I have all of my permission sets on top, I have a bunch of checkboxes, I have the same quick actions, I have the same filter options, in the same logic as in FLS, as in layouts. So here is the way how you can also quickly assign permission sets. It's really nothing to do with configuration, but even when you're configuring something, we sometimes need to manage organization and assign permission sets to different users. So here's how it's working in the IDE. Couple more things I wanted to show you. So let me show you one of the examples of how we can save some of your time when you need to query data from Salesforce. So in the admin panel, I can very easily generate a SOQL query for any object. Once I hit this button, the IDE will create a SOQL file and open the editor for a SOQL. You can type in the query yourself, but if you're not very good in a SOQL, or if you're lazy like me, or if you're just effective, you can use the right part of the screen. On the right part of the editor, you see the full list of your queryable objects, and for each of the objects, you see the full list of fields. So if you're crazy and if you want to select all fields for account, okay, here you are. Just, 2 clicks, I built a query that selects me all the fields. But I am not so crazy, so I will just go through and select some of the fields that I like. Let's say ID, name, number of employees, what else? Website. In absolutely the same way, I can select some of the child relationships. For example, with account, it might be interesting for me to select child cases, maybe contacts. So let's play with contacts. And I expand here contacts, and for each of the contacts, I can select email, ID, first name, say last name, what else? Level, I don't know what the field is mean. Again, in the same way, I can also customize the query, let's say limit to 100, and execute the query right in the IDE. It returns me all the results. It shows me them in a nice table, but results are bad, so I will remove this limit. re-execute the query. Okay, now I have 5,000 rows. I can switch between pages. I can see the details of each account, and at the same time, I can see child contacts or any child items. Again, they are not shown in the plain JSON. They are not shown in some XML way or in anything else. They are shown as a subtable, so you can very easily see the details. Of course, you can copy each of the fields right from here. You can copy the whole row right from here. It will be copied in a JSON format. And there is again, not very common feature, but sometimes it might be needed. If you want to modify data in your organization, you can use this right from here. So you can see once you hover any field, you see that object type is account, field type is string, and the field is not nullable. So let me just edit it. The Welkin Suite, I'm pretty optimistic that we have 999 employees instead of 99. The website is correct, and at the same time, let's change like first name from Vladimir to a short version. I can do some other changes to other accounts. I can do other changes to contacts. We have some initial steps into building bulk options to modify data. For example, you can right click here and set the value for the whole column. Once I hit this, all of the accounts will have the Welkin Suite name. I don't want this change, so I'm okay with changes that I've done. I just hit the upload changes button. Required fields are missing for account. Oops. Okay, so I will reverse the settings for account. I will try to upload once more. 99. Okay, let me select demo fields free in addition, so I'll be able to show you how to modify data. So here's my demo fields free, re-execute the query. One more attempt. Yay, query executed. So I re-execute the query and I should see the new changes. Here they are. And also you can export to CSV, but don't treat this option to export to CSV as like a data loader or as an option to export all of the records. It's mostly suited for your like, debugging purposes, for troubleshooting purposes, for reporting to somebody, or just for your memory. So not expected to be as cool for data export as, let's say, data loader. By the way, at the same time, we have a data loader option. If we go to the data loader, we can import data to the organization using the same approach as you have in Salesforce's data loader. So it's for insert, update, upsert, delete. You have the same CSV files, you have the same options. We are using the same mapping files as you have in the data loader. So it's a similar, familiar tool for you, but just under the same hood, the IDE. We also have another pretty cool option to import data to the organization. So if I will click on the project and select import data into an org using the subject tree save API. This in case if you have a JSON tree that was created using like a SFDX console or by developers or by some code. So if you have a JSON tree of objects that needs to be imported into the organization, you can do this again right from the IDE. And the last things, so I believe the last 4 minutes, and we'll switch to the questions and answers. So let's get back to the tracking changes. I've made some changes in the organization as we were working, and let's reload and see what I've changed. Not so much account and global value set, because I haven't changed anything in the campaign object, in the activity object. I haven't saved my settings to layouts, and I won't save them. So I will get back to tracking changes, I will reload, and I will see some new objects. Here we are. So the ID shows me what changes I have made in the organization since the starting point. And now if I want to deploy these changes to another organization, I can do this very quickly. I select this like tracking point, I hit the deploy button, I can enter credentials of any organizations that I have, or if I have another project in my solution, and I have my production organization project in the same solution, I just select it from the pick list, I hit next, the ID performs some comparison of items that are available on both environments. First level, it's a high-level comparison. It just checks if files exist on both environments, but it doesn't check their content. If you want to go deeper, you can hit the deep comparison button. The IDE will check the contents of each file which is present in both environments, and it will provide you a comparison option. In my case, I don't want to go so deep, and as you can see, the IDE have pre-checked the 4 items that I have modified right here. So if I only need to deploy these changes to another environment, I just blindly click next, provide some other settings, let's say validate only, ignore warnings, and run specified tests. When I hit next, the IDE will retrieve information about unit tests available on the target environment, and it will provide me a selection of what tests I want to execute. So let's see. So here we can see the full list of unit tests that are available on the target environment. You might be an advanced administrator if you're going so deep, but in my case, we'll select everything. I hit next, and deployment started. So I can see the deployment in the real-time process. I can see what happens here. In case if something fails, I can very easily go a couple steps back, modify settings, adjust set of components, maybe remove something or add something more, and retry this deployment once more. It was bad, it was very fast. So I can see my exceptions here. I can see what went wrong, and I can send these results to CSV, or I can back and fix something. As I don't know how to fix this, I will just kill this window. And in the same way, you can very easily deploy in the same wizard. Just right click on any project in your Solution Explorer and select, where is it, deploy to organization. In this way, it's the same wizard in the same approach, but you won't have just pre-selected items. So I'm already out of time as usual. I'm not able to explain and show features in short. So this was, again, a pretty high-level overview of what features we have. I've covered some of my favorite ones in more details, but some of the other features were not highlighted as good as I'd like to. And if you have any questions, I see that we have a bunch of questions, and I will answer them in the next 10 or 15 minutes. But a couple of things I wanted to mention, guys. So if you want a demo, such demo for your team, if you find that the Welkin Suite as a development tool or as a configuration tool might be helpful for your company, in your meetup, in your local community, just let us know, email us at demo@welkinsuite.com, or you can just reply to any emails that you've had from me, maybe on LinkedIn or maybe in emails, reply, let us know, and we'll be happy to organize it, or maybe to show something personally to you in more details. So thank you once more for your attention, guys. Again, we have lots of new features to expect for configuration. It's our already second purely administrative and configuration webinar. We've made a purely administrative session on Dreamforce, and we have huge plans in terms of the configuration. So you should expect a lot of new things from us. And try the Welkin Suite yourself. So visit welkinsuite.com. On our website, you can find details about the features that we have. You can see that all configuration is on the first place because we know that it is very important. You see lots of other features highlighted there. For each of them, we have the documentation, we have videos, we have screenshots, we have lots of other cool benefits highlighted on our website. So just visit welkinsuite.com, try it yourself if you haven't tried. If you already have a trial and want to start once more, just let us know. We are very friendly guys, really. And now questions. Yeah, the first question is the session is recorded. Yes, I hope, yes, it's recorded. So I believe by Monday, something like that, we will send you a recording. Maybe in the best case, we'll send it by Friday. So you'll for sure send you the recording and you'll be able to see it on YouTube and replay it, maybe ask some tricky questions to me later. So yeah, Field Usage Report doesn't include Process Builder at the moment, and Process Builder, it's pretty complex thing in Salesforce world. It's again done in a tricky way. We are looking for ways how we can provide you a better experience with Process Builder in the Welkin Suite. For now, it looks for us as a very complex task, and being honest, we see much more areas where we can provide you more benefits with less effort. So I believe that we won't do anything related with Process Builder in the next 3 to 6 months. In the meantime, we'll just work on lots of other places in Salesforce where where it needs our attention. Interesting question from Robin. Unfortunately, Robin left the webinar, but the question is, can the connection be configured to production as well as sandbox or only one? So right now, with the current version of the IDs that I was showing you right now, it's very closely tied project with your organization. So if you have, like say, sandbox, you have a project for sandbox. If you have production, you have a project for production. Next week, we are going to release one of the biggest releases in our history. It will be completely redefined approach to work with Salesforce, and in that release we will untie projects from organizations. You'll be able to very easily reconnect your project to a sandbox, to another sandbox, to a dev environment, to a production environment. So at the moment, no, but in about a week it will be possible very easily. Good question for permission sets. So I believe the question is if we can have the same approach as for FLS for permission sets. So not yet, unfortunately not yet. We'd like to do some configurations. We even have a built-in permission sets editor, but I'm personally not a big fan of this editor because I see that we can do it better. I know that we can do it much better. It's not included in the project. So we have plans. Our global goal in terms of the security, in terms of the permissions, is to cover everything, starting from the organization-wide defaults, FLS, permission sets, territory management, sharing rules. So all of the stuff we would like to cover this and provide some unique universal tools that will allow you to do all of the things needed for permissions for access in one place. And permission sets are on the next step for us. I don't have any good timelines for this, but yeah, we know that it's needed. We know that it's very important. We know that mostly organizations are split into two categories. First, use a lot of profiles. Second, use a lot of permission sets. And third, use everything. But we know this and we will do this for sure. Nice question from Paul. So in the layout, when you select a section, it will put the field at the end of the section. We know that it's not very handy and it's not the best approach. You'll still need to fine-tune exact location of the field on the layout. But once you've put the fields into the correct layouts, you can then do one of two quick options. So deploy changes. Now you can edit XML file. If you're a hardcore guy, you can rearrange all the stuff right here. I hate doing this. At the same time, I can just edit layout in the org. And in this case, the Welkin Suite will open you directly the page of the layout editor for that layout. You won't need to enter credentials. You'll reuse the same session, so no extra actions from you. And now it's much easier to rearrange fields inside of the section instead of drag and dropping them into the correct position, into the correct section. So yeah, you will still have to do something with the Salesforce UI. We want to get rid of this, but not now. So at least we've tried to provide a good way to reach this place in Salesforce without any mess, without any additional actions. So just right click on any layout and open layout in the org. Yep, question from Kurt. So can you paste the query into the SOQL editor and if it will populate checkboxes? So let me, I don't know what fields I have there. I have industry, so I will remove. So the quick answer is yes, but I will just replace it. It takes a second to reparse. And now you can see that I have demo field, ID, industry, and some of the fields for child relationships. So yeah, we recognize it in both directions. We recognize your changes. Sometimes there might be something not very good. We might not recognize some cases, but in 95%, we are absolutely okay to parse in both directions, and whatever you enter will be reflected in the right side as well. So we have a question about the multi-window support and about our roadmap. So for roadmap, we really have lots of different things for for configuration. Right now, we are very highly focused on the current release. So we spent almost 2 months working on it, and it's one of the longest releases that we've had. So right after that, I believe that we'll publish a detailed roadmap of what we'll have. We have some crazy ideas to provide access to the Welkin Suite functionality from your favorite browser with some extensions. I hope that we'll do this option. We hope that it will be available pretty soon, at least as a proof of concept in the beginning. But it's a crazy idea that will make your life even easier. In terms of the multi-window support, so in the Welkin Suite, you can drag and drop everything as you wish. You can drag your account, let's say, to a separate window. You can move it to a separate display, as I'm doing right now. You can put them side by side, let's say, and put the Welkin Suite here. You can drag and drop panels to separate places, like I can drag tracking changes panel, and it will be, okay, I'll grab this pack of panels and they will be just a separate window. Again, I can put them into any other display. I can stack them in the windows itself, so I can do whatever I want with the layout of the IDE. There's a question about the objects from managed packages. So we do not provide you a way to edit fields in the objects from managed fields. So you can find your managed packages in the reference of packages folder. I have a Capada package because we have integration with these great guys. I can find here any object, and if I will open any object, I will see the same editor that I've seen, but with a couple of differences. I see the plain XML, and the only tab that I see above is FLS. So you can configure FLS, but you are not able to configure fields and layouts for managed packages in the Welkin Suite for now. What about profiles? One more cool, tricky question. Thank you, Kurt. I love you. So profiles are not tracked for deployment. Formally, we support profiles. In the new version, it will be a bit better, but taking into account how strangely profiles are done in Salesforce, we even see some issues with profiles in Salesforce DX. The FLS tab is working completely on live data. It retrieves it from Salesforce, you do your changes, and we immediately deploy them to Salesforce. These settings does not land in your local projects, they does not get into any files. You still can pull profiles, and in the new version you'll be able to get whatever information you need in your profile file, but for now on I'd say that profile files are not tracked in a good way. Key question from Scott about the layouts. So if we are able to switch between layouts of the IDE, yeah, of course you can do this whenever you want. So in the view menu there is switch IDE layout button. Once you hit it, you have the same options. Let me switch to the coded development and you'll see how different it is. Almost the same, but Solution Explorer is on the right, editor is in the center. On left we have unit test results, we have code coverage details, we have debug logs, we have Salesforce DX Logs Manager, some other stuff. So a bit more panels, and to not overwhelm you in the admin mode, we have hidden them. So I think that we've already kind of run out of time. Thank you very much, guys, for staying with us for this 1 hour and for this a bit chaotic demo. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you found something interesting for you, at least to try maybe tomorrow, maybe today, depends on the time of your day. We'll try to answer a couple of other questions that I left unanswered in the emails, and I think that I will do this hopefully by Friday. So thank you once more, guys. We'll send you an email with recordings. We'll send you maybe some more emails, maybe with a discount if you would like to try the Welkin Suite. And please feel free to email us with any questions, any ideas, critiques, suggestions. We are very open for any kind of communications, and we'll be happy to hear back from you. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will go home sleep. Thank you. Bye.